Hi everyone. This video combines two concepts. The first is AI text-to-speech technology using a program called Speechelo. And the second is a brief introduction to my very own short, quirky fiction, mainly stories about Japan. Text-to-speech technology, as you may know, is pretty good, but not perfect yet. You can hear that here, in its inability to catch nuance and inflection. And Japanese words are a real bitch. As for my stories, well, I think they're pretty good. I'd also like to mention that my story, the Shunga Tales, is actually still a work in progress. I've published part 1, but there is lots more to come. Thanks, and enjoy.
The Ohanami Party. At Narita Airport, Ronnie steps off his flight from noisy, dirty, dangerous New York City, straight into heaven. 12 beautiful kimono-clad women are there to greet him. Hi Ronnie, over here, welcome to Japan. I'm Hanako, Professor Sato's daughter. And this is Junko, Keiko, and Mieko. Lots of kos. They shake his hand and take pictures for more than 30 minutes. The girls are terribly excited. Ronnie's really handsome. Thanks for meeting me. Then finally gets around to asking, where is Professor Sato? He couldn't come. We'll explain later, let's go. Where are we going? To a party. An Ohanami party. Eating and drinking under the cherry trees tonight. There's going to be a full moon, are you okay? Meaning would he like to join them? You kidding?
Yuki Onna and her gaijin lover.
Meet Yuki. She's smart and sweet. She'd make a perfect wife and mother. She's so beautiful that men can't keep their eyes off of her. She's everything Charles could want, and the only thing she wanted was Charles. But as Charles's friend Richard and his students watch the love story unfold, they can't help but notice the striking similarities between Yuki and a ghost from a famous Japanese legend named, coincidentally or not, Yuki Onna. But ghosts are only found in stories, right? Yuki Onna and her gaijin lover tells the story of a whirlwind romance between a foreigner living in Japan and Yuki, a mysterious and magnetic girl everyone seems to have an opinion about. And while their dates are magical and their love is blossoming, the coincidences just keep piling up. This modern-day retelling of the classic Japanese ghost story is a look at a budding romance, with a nagging, dangerous question that just won't go away.
Koshien Heroes. Koshien Heroes is a story built around the history and tradition of high school baseball in Japan, where at the high school level, the sport is much bigger than it is in the States. The story pits the Kawabata boys, a family of Okinawa-born and Kansas-bred brothers and cousins, against the Tokyo champs, Waseda, a real juggernaut of a team. Koshien Stadium, the home of the national tourney and birthplace to a whole slew of baseball heroes over the decades, is the perfect place for the national title game. Fans of baseball are not disappointed as the Kawabata team battles the Waseda team, in what the great Ted Williams called, the greatest game ever played. And it truly was.
The Survivors of Mount Oba-Sute. The Survivors of Mount Oba-Sute tells the story of old Thomas and his second journey to the top of a notorious mountain in Japan. It is an emotional journey that reminds Thomas of an unforgettable one he took 25 years earlier, with his dear friend, Ume, an elderly woman whose family had abandoned her. This story is a modern-day version, with a twist, of a sad and horrific 1,000-year-old Japanese practice, where the elderly were taken to the top of a mountain by the young, and left there to die. The Jon Ken Junkie.
An American scientist's curiosity for a children's game becomes an adult obsession. Settling in Japan, the man turns the game into a global phenomenon that ultimately gives his life purpose and direction. While doing research on brain activity in Japan, Jon, an American scientist, develops a curiosity for the Japanese paper scissors stone. Intrigued at first, he studies the game, and is determined to be the best. But to do that, he must practice, and practice he does. Everywhere. Yes, everywhere. He invites passengers on the train to use the game to settle minor disputes over train seats. He plays the game on dates in a variation of strip poker. He even plays the game with his girlfriend to decide if they will get married. He lets her win, of course. Eventually, and to his wife's dismay, Jon's devotion to the contest and perfecting his skill jeopardizes their marriage as well as his health. Like an addict strung out on drugs, Jon is able to quit the game cold turkey with his wife's help. But not for long. After a short break, Jon returns to the game even more determined than ever to master it, spending hours practicing in the bathroom mirror for insight into the moves of his opponents. Eventually, Jon's obsession and the public attention he receives turn the game into a global phenomenon. And changes the world in ways he never imagined.
The Shunga Tales, Part 1.
A young American learns more about sex than he expected from an unlikely teacher, a woman old enough to be his grandmother.
But the woman has a plan to seduce Max by stimulating his mind with a night of erotic art and amazing stories of sexual escapades. And Max is ripe for the fall. Max, a young American man who is tired of feeling neglected by his girlfriend, attends a party and meets a stranger, who gives him a private showing of her unique collection of erotic Japanese art.
Murasaki is a rich Japanese woman in her 70s who has spent her life collecting expensive, sexy, art pieces. In fact, unbeknownst to Max, she's an artist of erotica herself. When the two meet, Murasaki sees an opportunity to take on a new student, and perhaps, a new lover as well. But her approach is different. Experienced in the art of seduction, Murasaki sets out to capture Max's mind first. Because she knows his body will follow. And Max? He's hoping to get one of her paintings out of the deal. Between the art, Murasaki's intriguing aura, and Dai, a beautiful young woman who teases him with sexy tales, Max's senses are tantalized, leaving him ripe for Murasaki's plan to seduce him in every way. The whole experience exposes Max to a new world of sex, eroticism, and love-making, a world from which he doesn't want to escape. The seduction of Max is complete.
Horus. In the aftermath of an earthquake-triggered nuclear reactor incident in Japan, an American teenager devises a plan to evacuate a city's children. Fueled by his disgust over the government's corruption, denial, and unbelievably lax response to the event, Horus models his movement after the Underground Railroad that was used during the days of American slavery. Horus eventually manages to successfully pull parents and children together, to shine a light on the ultimate consequences of doing nothing. Fukushima residents, especially the children, will suffer from exposure to radiation for generations to come. And so, Horus decides that this would be totally unacceptable, irresponsible, and inhumane. Inspired by the principles of Aikido, the classic writings of great authors and thinkers, and the history of civil resistance, Horus's operation reaches full steam and achieves global attention as he secretly relocates hundreds of children to safety. In the end, the teen uses his notoriety as a platform to challenge Japan's government and the rest of the world's views on the dangers and risks of nuclear energy.
Crow, the king of sumo.
Set in Japan around the middle of the 1800s, and during the Edo period of Japanese history, Crow, the king of sumo, tells the story of Koji, a young boy who befriends a giant yet friendly cook on a US Navy ship. As the unlikely pair connects, they become great friends, and Crow goes on to challenge the sumo champion of Japan. Along the way, they learn about culture, life, and love from each other. This funny and exciting Japan tale has a kooky yet heartwarming connection to our modern world.
The Gaijin Detective Agency. Case of the Fantastic Facts.
Excerpt. The first note to GD sailed right through the facts, smooth as butter, but the second one hesitated as I fed it in. I tried to coax the paper through with my right hand, which was still covered with the blue powder, got my fingers caught inside the roller instead, and then got dragged down into the facts, head first. There wasn't a darn thing I could do to stop it. My entire body was pulled in, dimple by dimple, limb by limb. How did it feel? Well, I was in absolute agony when my back was going through. I'm so ticklish there. Now, I'm not about to try to explain to you how it all worked. I think I'll leave that to the scientists to figure out. But as I was being zapped through those telephone lines at 1 billion miles per hour, I reckoned I was experiencing the high-tech version of changing trains at Shinjuku Station during rush hour.
The Shyest Man in Japan, and other stories.
Did you know that Japan is not only sushi, Mount Fuji, and geisha? The Shyest Man in Japan is a collection of 7 uniquely written, mainly humorous short stories that will make you laugh, cry and shake your head in amazement at a Japan you never knew. Starting in spring and continuing into summer, autumn and winter, the collection includes stories of mystery, baseball, romance, beautiful ghosts, fame, adventure, and many facets of love. Go back in Japan's history, be immersed in her culture, and understand the secrets of one of the most beautiful, friendly and fascinating countries in the world. This book is a must for all Japan fans, for anyone planning to visit Japan, for anyone who has ever been or lived there, and especially for anyone who has ever asked themselves, I wonder what Japan is all about. A labor of love 20 years in the making, The Shyest Man in Japan will leave you wanting much more of the country you never knew.